In a bold declaration of resistance, leading civil society organizations, framing their legal strike with the rallying cry, "Enough is enough," have filed suit against President Cyril Ramaphosa and his administration, challenging what they decry as state-sanctioned reverse discrimination. At the heart of the dispute lies South Africa's updated Employment Equity Amendment Act, enacted in January 2025. Under this legislation, the government empowered the Minister of Labour to impose industry-specific numerical hiring quotas for Black people, women, and individuals with disabilities. Companies not meeting these targets could face fines, an approach critics call coercive and constitutionally unsound. The lawsuit, mounted by both the Democratic Alliance, DA, and a coalition of civil rights groups, asserts that this law breaches Section 9 of the South African Constitution, which permits remedial measures but disallows unfair discrimination. The plaintiffs argue that the amendment crosses that line, using race and identity to disadvantage other citizens and chilling investment by signaling a totalitarian shift in labor policy. DA Federal Chair Helen Zille has become the face of the opposition, denouncing the law as discriminatory toward non-targeted citizens and warning of its detrimental ripple effects on foreign direct investment and employment rates. The concerns stem from an already fragile economic landscape. Unemployment in South Africa stands stubbornly above 32%, and investors are sensitive to heightened regulatory burdens. President Ramaphosa and the ruling African National Congress, ANC, counter that the law does not entrench quotas, but rather serves as a tool of justice and equity, aimed at dismantling the structural inequalities left by apartheid. The ANC's spokesperson, Malenji Bengumatsiri, emphasized that the law is a critically needed mechanism for correcting entrenched economic imbalances, not an act of oppression. In his weekly address, Ramaphosa reaffirmed this stance, portraying the act as part of an ongoing moral and legal commitment to fair access to opportunity, anchored in the post-apartheid constitutional mandate. A broader story of reverse discrimination allegations. Beyond this high-profile challenge, South Africa has grappled with claims of reverse discrimination in other sectors, particularly in employment equity implementation. Past cases, such as the 2014 Constitutional Court ruling in South African Police Service v Barnard, upheld the legality of promoting a less suitable black candidate over a suitably qualified white applicant, justifying the decision as necessary for achieving equity goals. Critics of that judgment warned of the dangers of entrenching race-based decision-making, even when intended to uplift historically disadvantaged populations. Globally, commentators have framed South Africa's affirmative action trajectory as emblematic of a broader debate. Can and should initiatives aimed at systems of historic injustice risk creating new forms of reverse bias? One well-known voice argues that policies which favor historically marginalized groups may, over time, generate resentment and social fragmentation, particularly if perceived as undermining merit or fairness. If the court rules in favor of the plaintiffs, it could force a retooling of anti-apartheid economic policy, possibly stripping the government of robust means to accelerate racial, gender, and disability equity. A loss for the state could embolden opposition parties calling for merit-based frameworks, but weaken structural transformation efforts still critical to redressing inequalities. Conversely, a ruling upholding the law would signal judicial approval of aggressive remedial action, setting precedent for further equity-driven regeneration in business, education, and land restitution spheres. Meanwhile, politically, the case adds another dimension of tension within South Africa's fragile unity government, as the DA, once a partner in coalition, now positions itself in direct legal opposition. The eventual outcome could shape the evolving dynamic between justice, equality, investment, and race in both policy and public sentiment.